Well, the late Steve Jobs in 1983 was giving a talk at a tiny little conference in Aspen, Colorado. Now, a copy of that talk has recently surfaced, and Steve Jobs' speeches and presentations became legendary as he built his stature, as Apple became a more phenomenal company. Well, this particular speech he gave wasn't recorded in its entirety. It was done onto a cassette, and therefore the quality isn't spectacular. So I'm taking a bit of a chance by playing an extract of it this evening. I'm really hoping it's good enough. But what's interesting is the cadence and the emphasis that Steve Jobs was using in 1983 was exactly the same 25 years later when he was ruling the world of technology. Listen to the way in which Steve Jobs sells concepts of the future that nobody else had ever dared to dream up. Have a listen to this.
Apple's strategy is really simple. What we want to do is we want to put an incredibly great computer in a book that you can carry around with you that you can learn how to use in 20 minutes. That's what we want to do, and we want to do it this decade. And we really want to do it with a radio link in it, so you don't have to hook up to anything. You're in communication with all these larger databases and others. We don't know how to do that now. It's impossible technically. So we had three options. One was to do nothing. And as I mentioned, we're all pretty young and impatient. That was not a good option. The second one was to put a piece of garbage computer in a book. And we can do that, but our competitors are doing that, and so we don't need to do that. The third option was to design the computer that we want to put into the book eventually, even though we can't put it into the book now. And right now, it fits in a bread box, and it's $10,000, and it's called Lisa. And it just so turns out that, fortunately, there is a giant office market out there that is buying these things a lot faster than we can make them. We're sold out for the next year.
I'm really sorry about the audio quality on that, but it is 30-something years old, well, nearly 30 years old. Steve Jobs at an early conference, but using the language that made him famous. We want to put this really great computer into a book. Oh, it's a laptop. That's what he was referring to. Steve Jobs referring to the laptop, saying we want to put a radio link into a computer. Wi-Fi. That's what he was talking about. This was all stuff that nobody had ever dreamed about 30 years ago, and say we could make rubbish computers just like our competitors, but we're young and impatient. We need to create new things. I'm going to talk to a man in this technology space called Louis Eksteen in just a moment, because I want him to reflect on what Steve Jobs has said. But there's also an interesting piece of research out today which talks about companies and the way in which they're dealing with social media. Turns out they're not doing it particularly well. Louis Eksteen coming up in just a moment. Welcome to the Money Show. Well, I played that cut of audio from Steve Jobs earlier. Louis Eksteen, the managing director of Twisted Toast, joins me this evening. He's a consultant in the sort of online space. Had you heard that clip of audio from Steve Jobs 30 years old before, Louis?
No, not before, Bruce. It's just come out.
It's weird, isn't it? Isn't it this wonderful sort of flashback to a time where, never mind tablet computers, but laptops were at best in their infancy?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm actually in awe, and I'm humbled, and I'm certainly sad because Steve Jobs died Friday this week, a year ago.
It's already 12 months.
Yeah, he died on October 5th, 2011, and I'm not sure, but that could be a reason for the clip gaining the publicity it has. But it's very, like I say, I'm sort of a mix of being in awe and humbled and sad, because he foresee a whole range of things. The laptop, he even may have thought about the iPad already. Certainly things like the App Store, the way that the music industry would change over time, I think was in the back of his mind already. So, yeah, it's just, there's no substitute for genius.
Yeah, you look at Apple today, and I mean, without denigrating the world's most valuable company, it's still a great business and they still produce great product. But they're just, you almost feel the gap that Steve Jobs left behind more now than when he was ill.
Yes, the person that I feel the sorriest for in the tech world is Tim Cook. He's a hell of a decent guy. Yeah. He knows what to do, but he just simply isn't Steve Jobs. And yeah, that's
the biggest and hardest shoes to fill in the world of technology. Anyway, we're looking at something completely different this evening, and it's nice to get your memories. And thank you for reminding us that it's been already 12 months, almost to the day since Steve Jobs died. The reason that you're actually here, there've been numerous blunders over the past year, and how badly companies are dealing with social media. So bad that Worldwide Works has carried out a study to try and quantify it. What do you make of the key findings that there are a lot of companies that are interacting in the social media space, but none of them really seem to be doing it very well.
Yeah, there are the exceptions, and I think that, on a sort of a positive note, I think one can just mention that there are exceptions, and I do want to mention
Who?
Michael Jordan at FNB as a visionary CEO himself.
Yep.
And that has translated into his organization, into the culture. And there's another reason why I'm mentioning that is because a visionary CEO can really influence the rest of the organization positively. So, they're doing it well. Vodacom does it well. There's a number of companies that are doing it well. But the overall results from Worldwide Works that's come out in their research is that I would say that the average big company on a corporate level do not understand what they're dealing with. And there could be a wide variety of reasons for it. A guy like Michael Jordan at FNB is sort of comfortable with this new way of communicating himself. He participates in social media himself. He influences from that sort of level. But in a lot of companies, the sort of C-suite, the chief executives and other sort of people whose title starts with C, perhaps don't participate themselves personally. They may not have a Twitter account. They may not be on Facebook like Bruce Whitfield. They may not have an Instagram account. And
yeah, you're picking on the wrong guy here, Louis. I've never been onto Facebook, and I think I may have a Facebook account, but it's never been activated.
No,
and certainly, I downloaded Instagram from the App Store, and then looked and said, "Why am I bothering?" And I just deleted it.
But interestingly, Instagram, just on that, Instagram, new research just came out from the States that states that Instagram is now bigger on mobile devices in the States than Twitter.
I'm going to have to download it again. Now you see what you're doing to me. But Louis, the point is, what the research is showing is if you are the poor kippie who sits in the marketing department who's supposed to drive this strategy of dealing with this internet Twitter thing, you've got absolutely no hope in hell unless it is being led by the champion, and the champion has got to be the chief executive. Otherwise, you're on a hiding to nowhere.
I think so. I think the C-suite has to buy into a new way of communicating, and social media is probably sort of at the end of a strategy that kind of more deals with the company's own brand content creation, because that's what social media is. It's content that's created. There's a reason why media outlets, traditional media outlets like yourselves at 202 and magazines and newspapers, there's a reason why they're so successful on social media as well. It's because they understand content creation. They understand what people engage with, and that is great stories, brand stories. So for companies to really be successful, they should consider a content creation approach. In other words, their own brand content that they create. There's lots of studies coming out all the time, and just very recently, yesterday in fact, a study came out of the States that indicated that the dog food company Purina has been hugely successful on Facebook specifically because they tell stories. They don't sell dog food. There's no hard sell on their Facebook page. It's all about stories about pets, and that is such an amazing content strategy because it sort of hits consumers on a gut level.
You create an image, you build the brand, and you make people say, well, they tell such wonderful stories about our best friends that if I'm not giving my best friends what these guys produce, then I'm doing my best friends down. It's genius.
Exactly. It's genius because it doesn't do hard sell. And a lot of companies, a lot of South African companies, they venture onto Facebook and they think they're going to improve.
It's a sales channel.
It's a sales, that's it, yeah. But it's a content channel. It's a brand content channel, and I think that's where the learnings are. But it's very interesting, the Worldwide Works research, because it does give us a peg in the ground, a benchmark of what's happening in big companies right now. So it's certainly worth a look. It's very interesting. But
Louis Eksteen, we must leave it there. Managing Director of Consultants, Twisted Toast, Louis Eksteen on the Money Show this evening. Thanks very much for joining us.